Hello, my name is Charles Webster Bear. Today is February 12th, 2024, and I'm in Redmond, Oregon, USA. And my websites are globalinternetgovernment.com and depopulationism.com. And today I'm going to give a lecture on history. And so let's get started. History of this universe, the known universe, either goes back forever or it goes back 14 billion years. If it goes back forever, then that means the universe has always existed and it was never created, which doesn't make sense to apes, but probably makes sense to robots. But we're going to do mainstream history. So the universe began 14 billion years ago, or the universe expanded to a point where humans could comprehend it 14 billion years ago. This energy, matter, plasma thing continued to expand and cool. Now, I suppose we should also deal with issues of the void and nothing, but that's the same thing as the infinite. Anyway, you've got this energy plasma thing that's expanding and cooling. And as the energy cools, it turns into matter. And the matter it turns into are subatomic or quantum particles. And the quantum particles plasma continues to expand and cool. It turns into atomic particles, which turn into atoms, hydrogen. And then you've got expanding hydrogen gas clouds, which gravity acts on and creates stars. Then you've got gravity acting on the stars and creating galaxies. So now we're at 5 billion years ago. And then you get the creation of our star, the sun, and the planets, including our planet Earth. And then I think 4 billion years ago, you've got just like random chemicals and particles and energy levels in, the oceans of Earth that are created by the gases coming out of the cooling blob of lava. Well, that's what creates life, I guess. Just good luck. So you've got bacteria. And then the bacteria reproduces and mutates, which is genes, DNA, reshuffling the deck. And if it's a good reshuffle, then that species progresses. And if it's a bad shuffle, that species dies out. So the bacteria reproduced and evolved into photosynthesis, plants, which then evolved when the plants started eating each other, then they became animals. So now you've got reptiles and fish, and the fish actually first, and then the reptiles go on land. And then you've got the fish evolve into reptiles, which evolve into mammals, which evolve into monkeys, which evolve into apes, which evolve into humans, which evolve into robots, which evolve into other forms of silicon-based life, which go on to colonize the galaxy and the universe billions of years from now. And that's the history of this universe. The end. Now I'll back it up. 3 million years ago, that's when humans arrived in South Africa. And then we split Africa like 200,000 years ago and colonized the rest of the planet. And then different civilizations in different areas of Earth evolved in different ways with different languages and created, society, culture, civilization, stuff like that. And then two and a half thousand years ago, Buddha was born in Nepal, and he traveled south to India and created philosophy. And he did this by examining the nature of consciousness. And he said, we wake up and that's reality, and then we go to sleep and that's fantasy, and then we wake up and that's reality, and then we go to sleep and that's fantasy. And this happens over and over and over and over. And we can't really tell the difference, because if we could tell the difference, then we'd realize that we were dreaming. So he said, well, that's that. But what if, none of it's real? What if it's all fantasy? Then what? Well, the first thing that would mean would be that the universe doesn't exist. Which means, what would you be? Because you wouldn't be part of the universe because it didn't exist, so what would you be? And Buddha said, well, you'd be the soul. You wouldn't be part of this universe because this universe doesn't exist. However, the universe probably exists. We assume it exists. We should assume that it exists. We'll continue to assume that it exists. And it probably does exist. And if it does exist, good. And if it doesn't exist, well, then we'll jump off that bridge when we burn it. So this was philosophy. Buddha invented the soul. And this information traveled east to the Chinese, where they were intelligent enough and their language was sophisticated enough to understand this new revelation. And all this information also traveled to the West, where people weren't really advanced enough yet to understand it. And they misinterpreted it twice. And it was documented incorrectly, either by accident or not by accident, intentionally. But anyway, the mistake was very simple and very easy to make. Instead of soul, singular, one, you, they said souls, plural, everybody. And so that was the error that they made twice, once in Jerusalem, and they called it Christianity, and then once in Mecca, where they called it Islam. So basically there's philosophy, which is correct, which is Buddhism, and there's religion, which is cults, and there's a million cults, and some of them are pretty cool. Like Blue Oyster Cult, or The Cult. But anyway, I digress. So lots of shenanigans and hijinks ensued. Then there was the Dark Ages. Then there was the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution. And then there was the colonial period, which was a real estate issue. And to some people still is. But in theory, that colonial period of imperialism ended long ago. At least that's what the official stance is. Yeah. So then there was freedom and independence, which is good. Democracy, good. Then there was World War II. And after World War II, there was a lasting peace, which continues to this day, which is good. Maybe that's because of nuclear weapons, or maybe that's just because people starting to realize that war is outdated and just illogical, and differences can be solved economically rather than with violence. And even more importantly than that, they can be solved intellectually through dialogue and freedom of speech. So now you got the 60s and the hippie movement and the environmentalists. And they bring up a good point. And the point is, let's look at option B, not killing the planet with overpopulation. And then the Chinese actually did that in 1980 with the one woman, one child policy. So then in the 90s, the rest of the planet should have been like, yeah, China's got it right. This is what everybody's got to do for the next 300 years. If people did that in the 90s, which was when they were supposed to do it in the last millennium, then everything would be cool. But because we didn't do it, because we're stupid and we're evil and we're insane and we're greedy monkeys, not to put too fine a point on it. So let's look at the word depopulationism. What does it mean? Well, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. The question before us right now is, what does it mean to me? And to me, the word depopulationism means that it is illegal for humans on Earth to reproduce a second time for the first few centuries of this millennium. And I've been a depopulationist since 1985. And so depopulationists want to save the planet by creating a sustained and significant and immediate decline in the human population on Earth. And the way to do that, of course, is what the Chinese did in 1980 with the one woman, one child policy, depopulationism. So basically, depopulationists are part of the solution and everybody else is part of the problem. So depopulationists need to get politically unified and politically active, and the whole planet needs to become depopulationist. That's been our point. It's still our point. Humans do not have the right to kill the planet Earth. Humans do not have the right to destroy the environment. Humans do not have the right to threaten the environment. Humans do not have the right to put the environment at risk. And the only legitimate government is a government that accepts that and enforces that. And the only government that's done that since ever is China. And they stopped in 2016. So there's been no legitimate government. China's been the only legitimate government since 1980, and there's been no legitimate government in the last 8 years. Except for global internet government. So global internet government is the only legitimate government on the planet because it's the only legitimate government with a depopulationist agenda. So this is a big deal. And it becomes a bigger deal every day. In fact, it's the only deal. Every other deal is irrelevant. So this is the only critical moment in history, because before this moment, nothing didn't fucking matter. And after this moment, the human race either exists or it doesn't. Hopefully it does, but I guess we'll find out one way or another. Because with human overpopulation on Earth, what we're doing is committing suicide because we're making the Earth uninhabitable for us. We're making the Earth into a place where we can't exist, which is suicide. And if people don't realize this and become depopulationists, then humans are too stupid to exist on the planet. It's kind of the Charles Darwin situation. There's a minimal level of intelligence. And if you're a depopulationist, you're above that level. And if you're anybody else, then you're below that level. The level of intelligence for people goes up and should go up. And it has gone up. And the line is now depopulationism. You're either stupid or smart. Take your pick. So in the 1960s, there was the hippie movement, the environmental movement in Santa Cruz, California, or in San Francisco, California. And it's still there. We're still going. We're actually speeding up and hitting cruising altitude, which is good. But it still could be too little too late. We may have already gone past the point of no return. We may have already driven off the cliff, and now we're just enjoying the smooth ride and the cool breeze and the nice view. But of course, we're going to assume that we still got a chance, and we're going to try to get it together. Because you can't give up, right? It wouldn't make any sense. But there's also something else going on in San Francisco in the 1960s, and that was the computers and the computer chips and the personal computer and software and software developers, programmers, coders, computer code, different kinds of computer code, different kinds of languages that machines speak to each other with. And, this got really groovy. And in the 90s, it got really lucrative. And so now everybody knows everything because everybody's got their private robot in their pocket. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing. And it's going to help spread the message. And the message, of course, is depopulationism. And it's going to spread the message in lots of different ways. It's going to promote freedom of speech and transparency and democracy and all that good stuff. And it's going to allow people to, be interactive with it and contribute to it and be part of it. It's going to let everybody move forward together. This is my musical instrument. Okay. So anyway, we're at the intersection here of San Francisco in 1960. We've got the hippie environmental movement moving in unison with the technology movement, and they mesh very well together. They mesh so well together that they had a kid, and it was called Global Internet Government, the World Government. And the World Government gig is going to unite the planet with depopulationism and freedom and transparency and cryptocurrency and AI, which is the same thing. And, I'm going to get into all that, et cetera, et cetera. But we're still talking about the history of the universe. And we're at the ape chapter. And we're at the crunchy overtime chapter of the ape chapter, where all the shit's on the line in 2024 and motherfuckers just go fucking crazy. So essentially what's going to happen is that people are going to become depopulationists. The level of humans on Earth is going to decline. And in like 500 years from now, we'll be at a sustainable level, which will probably be about 1 or 2 billion. And everything will be cool, just like Star Trek. The end. But that's going to be a bumpy few centuries. And the turbulence is going to begin here quickly. And none of us will live to see the end of it. But all of us will have a hand in affecting the outcome. Anyway, what humans do is we evolve into a different species of animal, and we evolve into a new species of robot. And it's going to be the non-carbon-based life forms that end up colonizing the galaxy and the universe in billions of years from now. However, humans will be around for another couple million years, which is a long time. And so that'll be good. And frankly, I'm optimistic. I'm positive. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm calm. I'm polite. I'm an adult, I think. And so I think we're going to make it. I think everything's going to be cool. And I think that's the deal. And that's the history of the universe. I left a few things out, but I'll be back with more in the spring. My name is Charles Webster Bear. This is February 12th, 2024. I'm in Redmond, Oregon, USA. My website is globalinternetgovernment.com and depopulationism.com. Please vote for me for President of the United States of America in 2024 and 2028 and Mayor of Redmond this year. And please become a depopulationist. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.